Hi Stampers, welcome to Great Inspirations. My name is Kim Tolbert and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Thank you for joining me. Today's video accompanies my Tinsel Time Tuesday blog post for Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. And in the description of this video, I will put a link to that blog, and that is where you will be able to find the cutting measurements, the supply list, and more instructions on how to make the cards we're going to talk about today. So first, as you can see, I have some Designer Series paper in front of me, and this is from the Stampin' Up! Peaceful Place Designer Series paper pack. And these are just 3 of the designs, and of course it is double-sided. But these 3 designs, some of you may be like, oh my gosh, what do I do with those if I'm going to make cards? So we're going to talk about that, but we're also going to talk about making cards quickly, going back to basics for this year's Christmas cards. Some of you may have all the cards you need for this season, and that is wonderful. Congratulations. Some of you may be very close to having all the cards you need for this season, and you're going to be okay. You're going to be able to make those last few cards you need and get them in the mail in time. Now, some of you may be like I am some years, and you haven't even begun your cards yet. And you know what? That's okay, and because you still have time. But I have found the best way to make cards in a hurry is to go back to very basic layouts and use very basic techniques. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about how to use this specific Designer Series paper to help us make those cards real quick that we need to get in the mail for Christmas. But I will also show you some cards where I've used the exact same layouts, but they're with different Designer Series paper. So let's first look at this piece of Designer Series paper. As you can see, it has some trees here and trees at the top that are upside down. And that is designed so that you can cut this paper in half and use this half and the other half to make your cards. So let me show you the cards I've made using this paper. Here we go. As you can see, very, very simple. This one, I just put it on some, trying to see, remember what color that, this is basic black. Under these lights, it almost looked like it was evening evergreen, but it's basic black. And I just stamped a greeting on a piece of this Designer Series paper that is cut at 4 by 5 1/4 and put on an A2 card base, which the front of the card base measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then here, this was actually a New Year's card, but you could very easily put, you know, Merry Christmas on there. You can use any sentiment you want. And this was done with smoky slate. I just put a few of the metallic pearls. This one I did put some of the little gems on there. And this one, just to show you, you don't have to use black or the grays. I used Old Olive for the greeting and for the card base, and I put a few more embellishments on there. Now these cards were made, as I said, from this piece of Designer Series paper. And what I did was I cut the paper in half at 6 inches. And then I cut each of those pieces into 3 pieces that were 4 inches wide. And then I cut those pieces down. I cut along this, the white part, to make it 4 by 5 1/4 to place on my cards. And this is a very basic, very, very basic, excuse me, layout, and these cards go really quick. So inside, I just did something real simple. just a greeting, and I stamped a couple snowflakes. On this one, I just put a greeting. And on this one, a greeting, and then just stamped a little tree. That is from the Peaceful Cabin stamp set that goes along with this designer series paper. So there are those cards. And now let's move on to this piece of designer series paper. And as you can see, it is 4 sections that are 6 by 6. So I just cut it at 6 and then cut it at 6 again, so that I ended up with 4 pieces. And then what I did with those pieces was I cut to make this 3 3/4 by 5, and then I just cut this and cut a little along the bottom and the top to make it, I don't know, maybe it's a couple inches, maybe 1.5 inches by 5.5 inches. And that will make sense to you in a minute when I show you the cards. So from this piece of paper, you can get 8 cards. From this piece, you can get 6. So let me show you the cards that go with this piece. Here are 2 of them. And on this one, I simply matted it right on the Misty Moonlight. Stamp my greeting with Misty Moonlight and put a few gems. This one is the exact same piece of designer series paper. I just matted it on some basic gray, and then I put it on Evening Evergreen and stamped the greeting with Evening Evergreen, and it is up on dimensionals. And then again inside, just stamped a simple greeting. And those were those cards. They went real quick. Now for the other piece, remember this tree right here? Here is the card I made with it. I just adhered that right to this Old Olive card base. This is actually a piece of the designer series paper that I trimmed off of, I believe it was this paper. And I just stamped on it, matted it on a nice little mat of the Old Olive, put some of the silver trim behind it, and a few of those metallic pearls in the silver. So there are the cards I made using this specific piece of designer series paper. So let's move on to the next design. And this one was maybe the most challenging. So I started by, again, just cutting it in half this way. So I had a piece that was 6 by 12 and 6 by 12. And then I cut it in half again, so that I ended up with 4 pieces of 6 by 6. And then I just started cutting it down to where I cut these trees right here, and I got this card. And I've used basic, or the tuxedo black for my greeting, but this is the reverse of this designer series paper. So I just stamped my greeting on that and matted it on white with a white card base. Very simple. And again, just a greeting inside. Now the next card, this is the top portion of the designer series paper, this right here. And I thought it just looked really pretty, the stars and snowflakes. So I just did my greeting, mounted it. I did die cut it with the stitched rectangles. Again, some more of those metallic pearls and some more of the silver trim. And again, just a simple greeting. But I also used part of this just to kind of decorate the inside up just a tad. And one more card. This one. And that, of course, is this image right there. And this is some of the silver foil that's in the current mini catalog. But I put it on Blackberry Bliss, and it really reflects that Blackberry Bliss, even though it's silver. And what I did, these, I just took 1 inch by 5.5 piece of this silver foil, and then I cut it in half long ways so that it was 1/2 inch or 1/2 inch by 5.5, and then I had 2 of them, and I just adhered them to the back side of this image. So that's you don't waste your silver foil paper. It's just a little bit. It doesn't go all the way behind this. But then again, this greeting was stamped on the reverse of another one of these designs, of this one. It's this one. Just stamped it on the reverse side. Just cut a little piece and stamped it. And then I put a piece of the foil behind this matted greeting. So there are the 3 cards that we got from, or the 3 designs, I should say, that I got from this piece of designer series paper. And I was able to get 7, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, yes, 7 cards from this sheet of designer series paper. So there are those. And now, as I promised, I will show you some cards that I made using different designer series paper. And for these I used Heartwarming Hugs, but you can use any designer series paper you like. Again, this is just, again, the 4 by 5.25, and all I did was put on a greeting with a little bit of ribbon behind it and added a few little gems. And this one is very similar to this. It's the exact same technique. You just take your strip of designer series paper that, is the same length as your card, which is 5.5, and add a greeting. And then I did put, again, some of those cute little red gems. And this one is similar to this one. I just didn't put it on dimensionals. I just put it right on the card base. I did put a little mat on it. This is 3 3/4 by 5, and then the mat is just 1/8 inch bigger than the focal panel. And I did put some ribbon on it. And then we have this card, which is just 3 3/4 by 5, and just has a greeting. And I thought it was really pretty. And all these were really quick to create. I did, of course, put a greeting inside each of the cards. Except for this one. I guess I forgot that one. I'll need to go back and put a greeting in that one. And then Merry Christmas to you inside this one. So as you can see, you can use these layouts with any card or any designer series paper you have, and you will be able to make a whole lot of cards in not a whole lot of time. There you go. See how quickly they pile up? Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And again, in the description of this video will be a link to my blog where you will see pictures of each of these cards individually. And I will also have the supply list to make them and all the cutting dimensions. So until next time, stamp happy.